I'm going to get the valves adjusted. Let's see, exhaust 25, intake 10. 10, 10, 10. 10 and 25. They put that right on the serial number tag. Kind of convenient. Let's see. So intake 10. And 25. Again, that one actually feels just about right. One, 5. I can feel that building compression better now that the valves are. There's only been one that wasn't tight. But new camshaft, new lifters, valves ground, head surfaced. Shouldn't be surprised. Oh, next up is number 2. So we watch number 5. Oh yeah. She's making some compression now. And that's that. I'm going to reuse the old valve cover gaskets. This just for the initial setup. They're rubber, so they're pretty durable. I've got a new set to put on it for the final time, but like I say, I'm going to retorque this head after I run it a little bit. And so rather than getting the brand new gaskets all squished or whatever, I'll reuse the old ones long enough just to do this and then put the fresh ones on. There's the rubber gasket. This is actually the old one. It's really good shape, but let's see. Oh, this is the front one. Valve covers are down. I think the next thing is the intake and exhaust manifolds. Well, I'm now to the point of putting that water manifold in. See if I can find a good place to put this camera. Ooh, maybe on the air filter support. Yeah, that should work. It will work. Got my gaskets already doped up and put in place. And got my hose on, but the clamps ain't tight yet so I can get everything wiggled into place. I even went so far as to put a little aviation on the cast iron part of the manifold here before slipping into the, hopefully that's on screen, slipping into the hose just to give it a little extra sealing. I've done it in the past and had good luck with it. Which way did I have those clamps? Oh, it's gotta be there. There she goes. Ah, come on. There. Hopefully not bump my gaskets around too much. Now I can re-aim. The aviation actually will act like a lubricant while it's still wet. Let me slide that hose around and re-aim the clamps. So that all works good. Looks like I even got my special nuts in the right spot. Was doing that by memory, but someone once told me even the blind pig occasionally finds a kernel. The blind squirrel occasionally finds a nut. That's it. All right. This baby will go in like this. Just slide it in here, make sure I got the... Yep. But I don't want to put it in until the hose clamps are tightened down, obviously. They're kind of hard to get to once the heat shield's in place. And I'm putting anti-seize on the these bolts, because if those gaskets seep just a little bit, well, I'll give a shout out to my good friend Mike, who he does have a YouTube channel with one video. I'll even put a little thing up in the corner there somewhere. And I've been telling him he needs to make more. He has a very nice collection of Olivers, very knowledgeable guy, and he says he's going to do it, but you know how those things are. So maybe if you guys put in the comments, hey Mike, we'd love to see your Olivers, maybe he'll start putting something together. I know he's kind of wanting it to all be very professional, and overall I think most people watch if it's stuff, don't care if it's a high-end production. They want to see good content, and it doesn't have to be special effects and text overs and stuff like that. As I was saying, I give Mike a shout out there. It is one video channel, which the video he has is very nice. Video from his plow day, one of the plow days he's had. Friend of his daughter, I believe. But anyway, someone edited it. They had the drone there. They did some nice editing, and it is a very nice video. He has a very nice 2050 front wheel assist, which uses this engine. Basically, this is a D5000. The 2050 used the D4800. If you were to order an overhaul kit, same engine as far as that goes, but there are some differences between the two, updates and everything. And he found out where coolant had seeped. He had a trouble with the hose up here by the thermostat housing. So he was going ahead and doing this one between the two manifolds while he was at it. And one bolt broke off. and the other one was giving him a lot of grief, and he kept working at it and worked his magic and got it out without it breaking. Put new all bolts in, and all new bolts, and anti-seized them. And that's what I'm doing here too. But so, hey Mike, I'm sure you've got yours done by the time this will end up on YouTube. Fortunately for Mike, the one bolt that did break off broke off at the top of the threads, which left him something to grab onto with the vice grips, a little heat, and working at it, and he got that remains of that bolt out without too much trouble. This is where that heat shield goes. I'm not going to tighten this bolt up right away. I just want to make sure the gasket doesn't move on me. I think that's what's keeping this bolt from going in, as the gasket ain't quite lined up. Wanted to wait until the manifolds were clamped down so they were firmly in place so that hose could find its natural position, not be stressed. These are not the easiest clamps to get to if they should leak. So try to make sure they're good and snug. Don't want to strip them out either. Looks like another good spot for a maybe. Nope. Okay, this one down here will work. Just a 3/8 bolt with a head ground off. Act as a dowel pin. It's really makes it go easier to have something like having an extra hand. Water pump on. Let's do this cooling hose that goes to the oil cooler next. Got brand new silicone hoses. I guess they're all the rage these days. Even got it in fashionable black to match the tractor. Got the ends all buffed up, wire wheeled, so that hose slides on easy, in theory. Then I can just slide it in there and push the hoses out. Spin this. This filter hasn't been filled or anything yet. It is a new filter, but just got it on there to keep stuff from, oh, I should put the hose clamps on. Keep stuff from falling in. Now, in some ways, this might have been easier doing it before the water pump went on. But I thought I'd do it this way just to show that if you just want to replace these hoses, that you didn't necessarily have to pull the water pump. So what we'll do is clamp this one down. So it doesn't want to move. Got a little bit of antifreeze that dripped out of the water pump. I'm gonna put on that neck right there to try to lubricate that. Don't want to use oil. From what I read, these silicone hoses do not like oil. There it goes. I probably don't need to be quite that far that way. So yes, if you clean everything up good, you can change these hoses without having to pull the water pump. And like I say, little antifreeze, just straight antifreeze. It can be it's a little slick to start with. Now let's get these matching. Will help it slide a little better, and it's still compatible with the hose. Oh, that fits a lot better. Trying to aim these kind of up. I'm gonna re-aim this front one, but the air conditioner pump will be right here. And so if I ever needed to tighten it a little bit, it's not too hard to get to. Might take a long screwdriver, or a socket and a long extension, but it can be done. should be good. Take that out of the way. Glad I put it there. There's a couple flakes of paint, stuff that fell off. Could have ended up down in that oil filter base. There. Okay. Next up, thermostat housing. Okay, here's a thermostat housing. I'm not gonna mess with the thermostat. It was working fine, sealed up good. You can just see it. That's that shiny thing down in there. And this is actually the bypass port that hooks to the water pump. So your engine or coolant's coming off the engine into here, goes through this thermostat. Right now it's closed, so it goes through the center of this thermostat, which actually looks like this. Open in the center, and it sits in a seal on this shiny flat part. So it sits in there like this. And then until it warms up, coolant goes back into the engine to help it warm up better. And then as it expands, this cup on the end here moves away from, running out of hands. This part moves away from this part here in the seal that it's setting in. And coolant can start going up to the radiator. As it gets more open, it will get against the housing over here and close off the flow going to the water pump. And so all the coolant has to eventually, when it gets hot enough, will go to the radiator instead of recirculating back to the engine. Now, it's a pricey thermostat compared to a lot. It's getting up close to $100. This is a 190-degree one I happen to have around. And I believe I got an 880 in here. But the big thing is if you are replacing it, there's that seal that goes in there, and it's not terribly expensive, but if that seal gets blown off, then coolant can slip by this outer edge here and go and return to the engine, or it can, when that's fully open, it can bypass and, or I'm sorry, when it's, anyways, that seal is important because the biggest thing is you can get coolant, even when the thermostat's fully open, if that starts bypassing around that seal, it's going to go back through the engine, and so you're going to get excessive heat. So you might have a perfectly good working thermostat, and it's just the fault of the seal that the thermostat slides in and out of. Just thought I'd throw that in there. It's not hard to get to once you have it off the engine. Hose clamp on this end, 2 bolts that bolt it to the water pump on this end. Then once you have the whole housing off like this, these 4 bolts here separate this half from this half, and then the thermostat's right there. And then so once you have the thermostat out, the seal is right inside there. You knock that out, knock a new one in, and put the new thermostat in, or even the old one if it tests out all right. And new gasket, reassemble, and put her on the engine. All right, let's get her in there. You can see that's not too bad. Now let's switch around to the other side here. Like so. 2 different bolts on it. It's perfectly normal. The lower one down here is a Allen hex socket. I seem to have misplaced my standard size that it really is, but an 8mm works beautifully on it. I'll make sure my gasket is on the bolt. Get that one started. I'm putting anti-seize on these again. That's generally what I do with any of them that are near coolant. Just a little bit seeping in there and then sitting in there for hopefully a long time, because hopefully I don't have to tear it apart again. But if I do, or someone else does, it's going to make it a lot easier in the future. Just these 2 bolts. That gasket is in place. Oops. Those are both blind holes, so it's not like they go through to the coolant, but it still just seems like sometimes that stuff doesn't take much. I've got both of these hose clamps facing out. So they're pretty easy to get to if you ever want to snug them up. The green zip tie is just to, that's how I marked them. Put a green zip tie, because one is this outer one. Yeah, you can see that all right. This outer one is your actual temperature gauge in your dash. And take my glove off there. And the inner one is for the idiot light. And it is tied in with the oil pressure, so if either one of them gets to a fault position, the light and the buzzer come on, and the dash, all they do is complete the ground. If this one reaches a certain temperature, it completes the ground. If the one for oil pressure gets low enough, it completes the ground. The buzzer and the lights come on to let you know you need to do something. Because as we know, it's easy to be looking at other things. There's a lot going on when you're farming. This right here is the heater hose. Goes to the cab. It's good to shut it off in the summertime, which I just closed it down. Because, anyways, anyway, if the valve in the cab is letting a little bit of water coolant seep by, then you'll get a little heat off from that, make your air conditioning less efficient. So this ain't too hard to get to. Reach in here and just close it down, and that totally shuts off any coolant from going to the cab. A lot of you probably know about that. Some of you might not. That's why I was mentioning it. Oh, I have to get a wrench to tighten that up. Well, let's see. I could throw the belts on. I'll save the fan. It's easier to get the radiator on without the fan blades on there. Then just tip it forward and stick the fan in, and so belts probably ain't that hard to get on later either. Pretty much I'm to the point of lifting her off the engine stand now. Get stuff on the back end, and I can start throwing the over and under on, and the clutch and all that good stuff. And maybe this is a good spot to end this video. I'll know when I edit it. So anyways, thanks again for watching. We're getting close to being done here. I do believe I've got a filter, but I think I need to get a new water trap filter. Gotta remember to put that on my list of things to get. Hate to be ready to start and be held up by a filter. Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.